Coming up on this episode of the Hockey Nuts, Steve and I get you caught up with all the news of the week around the hockey world. There are a number of surprises so far this season in the league standings, and you'll be surprised at some of the teams who find themselves at the top and the bottom of the standings. I know we are. We'll have all the details of all of this, plus the minor league minute and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 2, Episode 10, recorded on Tuesday, October 19th, 2017. Early season chaos.
Shut up and sit down.
Gensel pass tipped away by Desharnais. Good job by Desharnais coming back. Miller sweeps the pass across. Grabner's got it. Grabner moves in. Desharnais to the net. Desharnais to Grabner. He scores! What a goal! Rangers lead it 4-3.
It's life-altering. Now, Jordan Staal, Slavin right in. What a goal! How about that? Jacob Slavin doing it all tonight. Getting a pass from Jordan Staal. The Hurricanes have recaptured a 2-goal lead.
Charlie McAvoy carrying up on the power play, drops it up for David Krejci. He's got Heinen on the left, gives to Bjork on the right, through the middle to Krejci, trying to feed Heinen in front. Bjork down to the corner, Heinen swoops in, the tap back to McAvoy along to DeBrusk. He tees up the slap pass, and it's an easy one for Anders Bjork, his first National Hockey League goal.
It looks like it got Kadri in the wrist there as he's holding on to his left hand.
Matthews knocked the puck into the air, snaps a shot, he scores! Wow, what a shot! Austin Matthews quickly makes this 2-1 Toronto.
Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
Going great, Wayne. Good to be with you. 10 big ones in our second year already. Boy, isn't that something?
They seem to be flying by, aren't they?
They're flying by, man, and I'm excited about this episode. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we certainly do, and it feels like, well, for me anyway, it feels like it hasn't been that long since we've done one, but it's actually been 9 days.
Yeah.
I had a little 5-day jaunt into the mountains, which I was pretty much off the grid for 5 days, so I missed a lot of hockey during that time because we were completely out of cell phone signal and
yeah.
TV, no cell phones, no TV, no nothing. We were just completely off the grid. We basically did the entire North Carolina leg of the Blue Ridge Parkway from Cherokee all the way up to the Virginia border. And we actually went. Yeah, and we actually went into Virginia a little ways as well too, to go to one last tourist spot just inside the Virginia line, and then we kind of did it. But when you're on that road, it's pretty remote.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's not an interstate highway by no means. That's for sure. It's
a very scenic road.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been to Cherokee many times, so I went fishing there. I've been there all the way since I was a kid. I've been up to Cherokee. I can't even tell you the number of times. So I know that area kind of well.
Yeah, it's an interesting little town, actually.
Yeah, it is. And a great place to go trout fishing. Yeah, absolutely. Might be the best place to go trout fishing in the whole state. There's not too many places, but Cherokee is known for its rainbow trout and brook. Okay. Yeah. Rainbow trout and brook trout are plentiful there.
Cool.
So, yeah.
But, we basically went up there and just did it was one of those little bucket list items that I've wanted to at least be able to say, yeah, I've been on every part of the Blue Ridge Parkway, and I can be an expert. So if anybody wants to to plan a trip to the Blue Ridge Parkway, I can tell you all the best spots to go, at least on the North Carolina side anyway. We haven't done the full Virginia side. That'll come later. So yeah, with that said, it took us a few days to do it. Of course, we didn't rush. Took our time, but while we were in the mountains doing that, we were out of cell phone range. We were out of TV range. We were basically camping out at some of the various campgrounds in the area, and we just completely went all 1990 on everything. Just completely getting out of going electronically silent or radio silent is some of the terms I've heard to describe it. So yeah, I've missed a lot of hockey, but we got a lot to talk about anyway. It's been 9 days since the last podcast, so we got all those games to catch up on. And we've got some teams that are continuing to surprise both in a good and a bad way. Yep. The Vegas Golden Knights are in a good way surprising the world, as well as some of the other teams. The Devils and the Knights are both 5-1. Philadelphia's 4-2. We didn't expect that. Montreal's 1-4-1. No one expected that. The Rangers 1-5-1.
Yeah, they're not off to a good start at all, Wayne.
Yep. The Kings have yet to lose in regulation.
The one thing I'll say to Rangers fans, and I always try to find the positive in something. I'm not perfect at that, but we started off worse than this in 2013-14, and we went to the Stanley Cup final that year. So I'm encouraged by several of these games. They've really come very close, and I think it's little minor adjustments. Let's hope it's that to pull us out of this. But no, as of the first few games, as far as the New York Rangers are concerned, we're not playing up to expectations. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you got to get things turned around for sure, because if they don't want to get too far behind, they'll find themselves in the same predicament that the Carolina Hurricanes seem to get in every year.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be scratching and clawing all season long, because then you're worn out by the playoffs.
That's right.
But Colorado has surprised some people. They're 4-3.
Yep.
Although they've lost the last couple games, so they appear to be coming back down to earth a little bit.
Right.
Edmonton 1-4.
Never would have guessed that. Surprised totally by that one.
Yep.
The Tampa Bay Lightning are right on line with what I thought as one of the best teams in the NHL. There's how about Calgary playing very well? Ottawa has continued to play well.
We kind of expected those teams to do pretty well.
The Washington Capitals are not playing to the level that we thought they would.
No, but they haven't been horrible either.
They're not horrible. They're in the middle of the pack.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some surprises on both sides of the win column around the league, and we'll get to talking about some of those as well. And then of course we're going to have our post-show fantasy hockey segment, of course, like we do, or we've started doing every week. So we've got all that to talk about. But before we get into the details, let's remind everybody that we're located on every platform that you can get podcasts that is at least relevant at this point. iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Play Music, Player.fm, Spreaker, Android, Apple apps that curate podcasts. You can subscribe to us by going right directly to our RSS feed, and the link for the RSS feed is in our show notes. You can go right to our website. You can watch and or listen to the podcast right on the website. And you can also find us on the hockeywriters.com website under their podcast channel page, where they curate a host of different hockey-related podcasts from around the world, really. If you want to get in touch with the show and interact with us, we're always looking for fan interaction. You can tweet me. I'm at WayneHalley9. Steve is at SBall504man. Our email address is at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. And links to all of those are also in the show notes. You can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts, and our YouTube channel at hockeynuts.com/YouTube. And speaking of the YouTube channel, we do live stream the recording of our podcast each week, and you can watch us live as we make the bacon, so to speak. And then you can also watch us after the fact if you don't want to just flat out listen to us. But we do put the audio up there on YouTube for those that do like to put the YouTube on and play the podcast and go back and do something else, like if you're listening to us at work, you might have work to do. So if you don't want to watch us, you can just listen to us instead, and you can do it right through YouTube as well. All right, so let's get into the details. Like we had talked about before, there have been some surprises around the standings. You had mentioned the Washington Capitals being kind of a middle-of-the-pack team. Carolina is doing pretty much as we expected. I don't know if the rest of the hockey world's expecting it, but they have only played 4 games. They're 2-1-1. Tampa's off to a really good start, but that was pretty much as expected. Toronto at 6-1. They're doing very well. Columbus, Pittsburgh doing very well. I'm really surprised by New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey is definitely playing well. I am not of the belief that will continue, but they're playing well now. And I say that because I watched them play one night against us, and we should have won that game. But, they're playing well, and they're riding their emotions. They're confident. They're gaining confidence from the way they're playing, and you never know, that may catch fire.
Yeah. And one thing that jumped out at me, too, looking at the standings, when I got back from my trip, I had to basically catch up by just taking a look at the standings, see where everybody was at, see what's been going on. Tampa Bay at 5-1-1. The record looks really good, but if you look at the goal differential, they're only a +4.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, we're expecting Tampa Bay to be good, but at only a +4, that generally is a bit of a red flag there. So it basically means that when they win, they're barely winning. When they lose, they're losing big.
Right.
So it'll be something to watch there to see Tampa Bay, if they continue to play well enough to win, or will they come back down to earth a little bit. Right. But at the bottom of the standings, of course, the Rangers and Montreal are at the very bottom of the Eastern Conference right now. Montreal, what's really surprising me with them is just how bad they have been. They have played 7 games so far, and they have only scored 11 goals total.
Right.
And obviously, we talked about it in the preseason that Montreal may have trouble scoring goals this year, and of course, that is, at least in the beginning part of the season, has turned out to be, ultimately what has happened to them.
Right.
Granted, giving up 27 goals in just the 7 games is not helping matters any either, but if you're only scoring 11 in 7 games, you're not going to win very many games.
Right.
So I don't know what they're going to have to do in Montreal. I personally am too disappointed over that, but of course when Boston plays Montreal, that game will just be a good game anyway, no matter what, because when 2 teams get together, it doesn't matter who's good. The games are tough. All right. Let's talk about our individual teams that we tend to follow, and I'll let you go ahead and start with the Rangers, because I know you're probably
get them out of the way quickly. No, I think 2 things. I think the Rangers have lacked a scoring punch at times in games. They do not capitalize. They've had a ton of scoring opportunities. It's not like they're not generating good, high-quality scoring opportunities. They're not capitalizing on them offensively. That's been a major problem. And the only way – that happens to everybody during the year. Just so happens that it's happening to us at the beginning of the year here where we have a lot of home games, and I'm hoping we break out of that. The other thing is, I don't believe that the defense in front of Henrik is playing terribly up to par. They're allowing too many. First of all, they're making a lot of turnovers, and they're allowing too many odd man rushes. Teams capitalizing on that when they get it, and just a breakdown in defense in front of Henrik. I think a couple of the losses that we had, the one to the Columbus Blue Jackets, if Henrik Lundqvist was not the goaltender in that game, we would have probably lost that game 8-9-2. I mean, Henrik was the best player in that game.
Yeah.
He really was. And so you can't fault Henrik on most of these games. You really can't. And, I go back to how we've played. You look at the games we lost. We lost to St. Louis 3-1 on the 10th. We lost to Columbus 3-1 on the 13th. We lost to New Jersey 3-2 on the 14th. And a game I really felt we had in hand against Pittsburgh 2 nights ago. We let them back in that game and lost that in overtime.
So you've gotten 1 point in 4 games.
1 point in 4 games. Yep.
On the week.
So not good at all.
And 3 of those games were at home, which doesn't help.
Right.
You got to be winning those home games.
Yep.
Now, granted, St. Louis, Columbus, Pittsburgh are probably 3 of the better teams in the league. They're definitely at the least playoff teams. Yeah.
All of them in the top 10 of the NHL.
Yeah.
All 3 of those teams. But there's no excuse. You should win one of those games.
Well, if you're a contender yourself, you should be winning those games at least half the time. So
right. So that's what I see as a hockey fan. As problems that need to be corrected, and I know they're working hard on that in practice. When you're behind the 8 ball, it's tough because you come out and you're tense and you're wanting to do the right thing and you don't want to make a mistake, rather than relaxing and playing the way you're capable of playing.
Yep.
And a lot of times that causes more problems, and then you're deeper in a hole. So they've got to play their way out of this. And as I said, everybody goes through these types of things. The Rangers just need to stop the bleeding and get it turned around as quickly as they possibly can now.
Yep, and they get their chance tonight as we record this. Today is Thursday, of course, the 19th, and the Rangers do get a chance tonight to at least start turning things around a little bit.
Right.
In fact, all 3 of our teams are playing tonight. The Hurricanes, our local team, are also playing later tonight. They're out in Calgary. They're on their annual 2-week road trip as they vacate the PNC Arena so that the parking lots can be used for the North Carolina State Fair. It's something that happens every year around here. We know it's coming, that the Canes go on a long road trip every year in October, and they play anywhere from 4 to 8 games on the road while they're gone because the parking lots there need to be used. It's a huge fair, that North Carolina, biggest fair I've ever been to. I know that, the North Carolina State Fair. But they're playing on the road, and before they left, they had a 2-1 overtime loss against Columbus, their last home game before they hit the road. That was way back on the 10th. And then they lost 2-1 at Winnipeg on the 14th, and then they won 5-3 in Edmonton on the 17th. And, of course, they won their other game that was earlier. We talked about that last week. So that puts the Hurricanes at 2-1-1 on the season. They're probably one of only 2 teams, I think, that have only played 4 games so far this year, where everybody else has played 6, 7, and I think we might even have 1 or 2 teams play 8 already.
Right.
So the Canes have a very light schedule here to start the year, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing because the locals around here are not interested in hockey until it actually starts getting cold, and it really hasn't been cold at all up until the last couple of days. It's kind of been chilly in the mornings, but other than that, it really hasn't been that cold, so everybody's still into college football around here. So a lighter schedule for the Canes is actually advantageous for them in terms of home attendance anyway. But, not a bad showing, even in the losses. I watched all 3 of these games. And even in the losses, they played very well. The games were very close, and the game against Edmonton was actually really 5-3. You'd think that was not a very close game, but it was 4-3 till late in the third until the Canes scored that. It really wasn't. It wasn't an empty netter. It was an actual goal to go up 5-3, and that kind of put things away in that game. So, but they play their next game tonight as well against Calgary later on tonight, West Coast game. So we'll be able to watch our Rangers and Bruins, and then if you want to stay up late, you can sit back and watch the Canes out west on your center ice package. The Bruins, on the other hand, have had a rough week, both on and off the ice. They lost at Colorado back on the 11th, 6-3, in a game that they just flat out didn't show up, as far as I'm concerned. The next game, 6-2 win at Arizona on the 14th. But again, that's Arizona. They're a weak team. They're still looking for their first win of the year. I think they're 0-5-1 at this point. So you really have to win those kind of games if you want to consider yourself any kind of playoff contender. And then they went into Vegas and lost 3-1. And that was on the 15th. And again, I felt in that game that was a lackluster effort on the part of the entire Bruins team, really. It was only 1 or 2 players that I felt played okay, and the rest were just almost looked like they were just trying to get the game over with so they could go out outside and go up and down the strip and do a little gambling. And maybe that's what Vegas' secret's going to be this year, is entice the visiting teams with the entertainment in the city.
Yeah. Get the players at the slot machine, you know? Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, did you see the Vegas Golden Knights unveiled their mascot?
Yes, I did see that. Oh, God, what was his name?
It's a Gila monster. His name is Chance.
Yeah, I saw that.
Chance the Gila monster. Yeah. Yeah,
and he had a looked like a hurricane warning thing there going. He was cranking something there, a storm warning thing the first night that they had him out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen that. That ought to be quite fun when they play some of these teams around the league with his mascot. Yeah.
Yep. I'll look forward to seeing him in the mascot game at the All-Star weekend. They actually do I don't think they televise it, but they do a mascot where all the NHL mascots get together during the All-Star break, and they, as kind of a something to entertain the fans that are coming into the building, getting ready for either the game or the skills competition, they'll have all the mascots out on the ice playing hockey. Western Conference versus Eastern Conference. They have the annual mascot game, which is kind of fun. Funny to watch, too. All right, so with that said, that's kind of the general in-game updates on the three teams that we follow closely. Were there any particular games that you saw that you wanted to talk about that didn't involve any of the three teams that we follow? Like I said, I didn't have much time this week to watch any hockey because I was out in the mountains vacationing for 5 out of the 9 days that we've been off since we last recorded.
Right. I did watch the Blackhawks play briefly, but nothing. They look good. Chicago looks good, and but I as well have not watched a lot of the extra games other than the Rangers games. I have not missed a Rangers game, but that being said, Eddie O's back doing games as his health will allow, which is good.
Yep. It's good to hear.
And so I was glad about that. And I have not watched a lot of extra stuff. I've paid attention to the replays and stuff a little bit. But no games that come to mind that I watched that I really can comment on. So
okay. Yeah, and I did see today that speaking of the Blackhawks, they're playing the Edmonton Oilers tonight, which should be a nice test game for the Oilers to see if they can break out of their early season slump. And I know they're still without Draisaitl. They're going to be without him for a little while because he's going through some concussion issues.
Right.
So
I did watch Notre Dame Denver, the 2-2 tie game. I watched that. So.
Oh, okay. The college game. Yep.
Yeah. That's it. Other than that, I don't have anything to really say in regards to that. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking real closely at the transactions. I didn't see any trades or any notable transactions. I mean, there's always players coming up, players being sent down, as rosters are tweaked. There's really nothing there that is earth-shattering to report. So we'll go ahead and move on to injuries.
Okay.
Because I don't believe there were any trades over the last week. No, there hasn't been a trade since October 9th.
Yeah.
So, all right. Boston Bruins forward Ryan Spooner will be out 4 to 6 weeks after sustaining a groin injury against the Vegas Golden Knights on Sunday. Spooner sustained a right groin adductor tear in the 3-1 loss. He missed 6 games in the prior 2 seasons. The 25-year-old center has 1 assist in 5 games so far this year. He ranks second among Bruins forwards in power play ice time per game, behind David Pastrnak. Bruins goaltender Tuukka Rask had to be helped off the ice after rookie forward Anders Bjork collided with him during practice on Wednesday as well. And speaking of Tuukka Rask, he's been diagnosed, as of today, he was diagnosed with a concussion. He was not on the ice for the optional morning skate this morning after having been helped off the ice yesterday due to that collision with Anders Bjork. Backup Anton Hudobin will start for the Bruins against the Canucks on Thursday night, and that's a home game for them, so it'll be at Thursday night, 7 p.m. start. And Zane McIntyre was recalled from Providence to serve as his backup. Rask is 1-3 with a 3.30 goals against average and an .882 save percentage in 4 games so far this season. So Rask has been struggling anyway, and then that injury that he got with Anders Bjork certainly didn't help matters any. So it looks like Rask is going to be out for a little while, and they're going to have Hudobin in net. They'll probably end up platooning McIntyre and Hudobin. It's kind of what they did last year when Rask got hurt there he was hurt for a couple of weeks last season as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably going to see Hudobin tonight against Vancouver, and then they'll probably bounce back and forth until one of the two goalies ends up playing better, and they'll stick with the hot hand at that point until Tuukka's back. From what I understand, it's not going to be a long injury for Rask.
Mm-hmm. That's good because, I tend to think he's one of the best goalies in the NHL, so you play his way out of that, whatever he's in.
Yep.
And that's good.
All right, Vancouver Canucks forward Louis Eriksson will miss 4 to 6 weeks because of a sprained knee. Eriksson, who's 32, was injured during a 5-2 loss to the Calgary Flames on Saturday. He has 1 assist in 4 games. Eriksson is in the second season of a 6-year contract worth $36 million that he signed back on July 1st of 2016. Eriksson had 24 points in 65 games with the Canucks last year. Eriksson really hasn't done much since he left Boston.
Yeah.
24 points in 65 games. Granted, the team there is not that good, but to pay $6 million a year for 24 points,
yeah,
that's not too good.
A good transaction so far.
No.
But I agree with you, too. I would have thought he would have really stepped to the forefront, particularly on the Vancouver Canucks, who are in dire straits as far as their talent pool.
Yeah.
I think we both agree that Vancouver's they definitely need. I watched Brock Besser score a goal the other night briefly, but they need help.
Yeah, they're in a rebuilding phase right now for sure. They're nowhere near a playoff contender, never mind a Stanley Cup contender.
Right.
All right, we mentioned him earlier. Leon Draisaitl was placed on injured reserve by the Edmonton Oilers on Monday. The 21-year-old forward didn't play in a 6-1 loss to the Senators on Saturday or a 5-3 loss against Carolina on Tuesday because of an eye injury and concussion-like symptoms sustained during the first period of a 5-2 loss to Winnipeg on October 9th. Draisaitl has 3 points in 3 games so far this season. He was 8th in the NHL with 77 points in 82 games in 2016-17 and signed an 8-year, $68 million contract extension back on October 16th. Edmonton needs Draisaitl. They really do.
You're not. Yeah, I mean, and that's a team again where they have a few guys who they rely on and they really need. Their talent pool isn't deep there, Wayne.
Nope.
They have a lot of good players, but they rely heavily on Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, to a certain extent, Milan Lucic. There are go-to guys on that team, and when one of them goes down, they suffer.
Yeah, because what other teams can do is they can just key on the other guy. You know, you take Draisaitl out of the lineup, now you put your best defensive players out with McDavid, and you dare them to win the game with their other players. And that's right. Essentially how Carolina beat Edmonton. Is they put Jacob Slavin out there all night long with Connor McDavid, and Slavin shut him down. I don't think McDavid even registered a point in that game.
Right.
I know he didn't score. He might have gotten assists, but I don't think he got more than that.
Right.
Oh, look. So with Draisaitl being out, that makes Edmonton a much easier team to play against. We'll put it that way. All right, goalie Marc-Andre Fleury was placed on injury reserve by the Vegas Golden Knights on Sunday. Fleury sustained a concussion after taking a knee to his head from Detroit Red Wings forward Anthony Mantha during a 6-3 loss on Friday. He is 3-1 with a 2.48 goals against average and .925 save percentage in 4 starts for the season. Fleury had 2 concussions in 4 months 2 seasons ago while playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins and lost the number 1 job to Matt Murray. He was 18-10-7 as Murray's backup last year and helped the Penguins win the Stanley Cup for a second straight season by going 9-6 in the playoffs before Murray returned from a lower body injury in the Eastern Conference Final. Forward Jonathan Marchessault, who has 1 goal in 4 games, also was placed on injury reserve by the Golden Knights. He has a lower body injury. Like Edmonton needs Draisaitl, Vegas needs Marc-Andre Fleury. He's been playing lights out so far this year. He's a big part of the reason why they're 5-1 to start the year. Best start for expansion team in their inaugural season too, by the way.
Right.
In league history.
I heard that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's a big part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Marc-Andre Fleury has a lot of good left in him, and so it's the type of thing where you have a good player, a core player, and when he goes down, you look at Pittsburgh. They lose Sidney Crosby. They are in trouble, but they still have Kessel, Malkin, on that. They have a lot of weapons,
right?
And they don't necessarily have to have Sidney Crosby all the time. They got other weapons to score.
Yep.
You take Connor McDavid out of Edmonton's lineup, and boy, they'll struggle to win games. They will.
Certainly will.
They'll struggle to win games. So
certainly will.
Yep.
So yeah, with Andre Fleury being out now, that gives an opportunity to their backup, who is now Malcolm Subban, PK Subban's little brother.
Malcolm Subban, the starter.
He is now the starter. He got his first, and I believe he's got his second NHL win ever.
Yeah.
Again, Bruins fans know the answer to this, but look who he got his first NHL win against.
Yeah. Oh, well. It might be beginner's luck. You never know. He's certainly.
Yeah, and he played well that game, too, because I did watch that game, and he didn't look like the Malcolm Subban that had been playing in Boston and that ended up getting sent down. Essentially, Boston got sick of waiting for him to develop, and they ended up having to send him down. And he, of course, this year he had to pass through waivers, unlike years prior, and Vegas scooped him up. And lucky they did, because right after that, that's when Fleury went down with injury, and now Subban is starting in net with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
Just like that, Subban goes from being an AHL goalie to an NHL starter. It happens that quick for goaltenders.
Yep.
All right, Vancouver Canucks defenseman Alex Edler will miss 4 to 6 weeks with a sprained MCL. Edler was injured in the first period of a 4-2 loss to the Winnipeg Jets on Thursday. He has 1 assist in 3 games. Edler averaged 24-17 of ice time in the first 2 games, playing on the top defense pair with Chris Tanev, as well as playing on the point, on the power play unit, and on the penalty kill. Defenseman Derek Pouliot will replace Edler against the Calgary Flames on Saturday. Pouliot will play in the first time since being acquired in a trade from the Pittsburgh Penguins on October 3rd for defenseman Andre Padan and a 4th-round pick in the 2018 NHL Draft. A lot of 4 to 6 week injuries. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Edler, 4 to 6 weeks. Eriksson, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Spooner, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
So, all right. Washington Capitals placed defenseman Matt Niskanen on a long-term injury reserve Saturday with an upper body injury. Niskanen left in the second period of Washington's 5-2 victory at the New Jersey Devils on Friday and did not return. He is listed as week-to-week. Niskanen has 1 assist in Washington's first 5 games and was averaging 23-22 of ice time through 4 games. He played 12-18 against the Devils. Coach Barry Trotz said the earliest Niskanen can return is the Capitals game at Buffalo on November 7th. Niskanen has been a durable player, missing just 5 games in the past 4 seasons. He has 270 points in 738 NHL games over 11 years with Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Washington. Washington recalled defenseman Madison Bowie from Hershey of the AHL. Bowie, who's 22, will make his NHL debut on Saturday, or he did make his NHL debut on Saturday, when the Capitals played the Flyers. Bowie was paired with Christian Dior's or Joe's. Wait a minute.
Christian Juice. Yeah.
Juice. It was like my note page thinks that it's misspelled and I couldn't read it. Juice. Christian Juice. Who made his NHL debut on Wednesday against the Penguins. The two were partners in Hershey last year. So long-term injury reserve means he'll be out a while.
Yeah. What do you think, Wayne? Washington has always, for the last, since in the Alexander Ovechkin era, they are primarily an offensive team. They have good defense and they're a veteran team, but they beat you by outscoring you a lot of times.
Yep.
And so that's a tough loss, and I'm not saying it's not, but look at what they're doing here at the beginning of the year. Alexander Ovechkin is just playing lights out. So
yeah, I think having him out would be better than having one of their high-end forwards for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
a loss to the defense, while it does hurt, is not as bad to that particular team as it might be to others.
Right. All right. And the final one that came down today, LA Kings center Jeff Carter will be out indefinitely with a cut to his left leg that required surgery on Thursday. He cut a tendon, but it was on the side of his ankle. Kings general manager Rob Blake said, "It wasn't the Achilles tendon. We won't announce a timeline at all. He's out indefinitely." Carter, who has 3 assists in 6 games and was the leading scorer for the Kings last season with 66 points in 82 games, was injured in the last minute of the first period in a hit from Montreal's Jeff Petrie in a 5-1 win on Wednesday. He left the game and did not return. Kings signed forward Brooks Laich to a 1-year, $650,000 contract shortly after announcing Carter would be out. Laich had 14 points in 81 games with the Washington Capitals and Toronto Maple Leafs last season.
Right. Now, Wayne, I did want to, I read these notes. I did want to say something in particular, a discussion point for me and you, because when the power rankings come up here in the show in not too distant future, we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Kings briefly. Yep. We said at the beginning of the season that they have the solid veteran team. They have a good chance. They stand a good chance of making the playoffs. They really do. But they have started out very well this season. But you and I both had a caveat about that team that we agreed on. And that is that if a player like a Drew Doughty or a Jeff Carter or, God forbid, they lose their goalie again like they did last year. If one of those players goes down, and Anze Kopitar, they're in trouble. Yep. Things got to go right for the Kings for them to make the playoffs. And this is one of those injuries that I think is not good. Jeff Carter he might be the best player on that team, but he's definitely the best offensive player on that team, at least in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
So that's a big loss.
Yeah, and I had the game on. I was working on my show notes last night late. I got home late after work, and I still hadn't finished my show notes. So I had the show notes, working on looking up stories for the show today.
Right.
And I had the LA Kings game on the TV above me. I wasn't really watching the game, but it was on, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw that play happen, and the play kind of looked kind of innocent.
Right.
Petrie went in, hit him against the boards. Yeah, one of his feet came up off the ice and kind of grazed the side of Carter's leg, but it must have just hit just the right spot.
Right.
And it hit a little piece of skin that was visible between the top of his skate and the bottom of his sock on the side. It got him on the side of the leg, not like they said. It's not the Achilles tendon, which would be on the back of the foot.
Right.
It hit him on the side, but there are still tendons there that attach basically your foot to your ankle bone, and apparently that little bit of a cut.
Sorry.
That little bit of a cut was enough to cut a tendon of some kind on there. That is going to be something that's going to have to heal.
Right.
So, and he's going to be out long enough so that LA had to decide to sign Brooks Laich, who actually got a PTO with them earlier in the preseason.
Right.
He's been kind of playing and practicing with them at least early, back in September. So, and I believe he lives right there in town with his wife is a celebrity. So,
right.
So, obviously he's sitting there, but they felt the need to sign Laich to fill that roster spot.
Right.
And, which tells me that he's going to be out for a little while, and
right.
You're not going to get the Brooks Laich that was scoring 30+ goals back in Washington.
Yeah, it's good. So, I'm telling you, the Kings. This is one where you turn up the hourglass and the sand starts falling out, and God, you don't want it to run out of sand, because they need Jeff Carter back in order to make the playoffs. They have to have him.
Yep,
and it's the type of thing that, like we said, things got to go right for the Kings. If they go right, I think as I said, they can make the playoffs. But if they don't go right, things go south for them pretty quickly.
Yep, we'll see how they respond to this for sure.
Yep.
All right, that's all I had for injuries. Did I miss any?
No,
okay.
No. I think we did a good job on that. You did a great job.
All right, good. Let's move on to suspensions then. St. Louis Blues forward, suspension/fines in this case. St. Louis Blues forward Vladimir Sabatka has been fined $5,000, the maximum allowable under the collective bargaining agreement for high-sticking Chicago Blackhawks forward Patrick Sharp during NHL game number 93 in St. Louis on Wednesday the 18th. In a memo that came out from the league's Department of Player Safety. The incident occurred at 14:40 of the third period. Sabatka was assessed a double minor penalty for high sticking. Didn't see the play, so I don't know if I can really comment on it accurately, but just wanted to note that we have a player getting fined here. So
yeah.
So obviously you didn't see it either.
I did not see the play, Wayne. I can't comment on it.
Yeah.
But is that the first fine of the season?
I don't think so.
Was there one the first?
There was one in the first week, yeah, and I can't remember who it was. But the only other thing is to comment on it. Obviously, if it was elevated enough to get double minor, it at least broke the skin, and in order to elevate to a fine, he had to have done it in their mind on purpose or without regard whatsoever for the player's safety.
Right.
So it wouldn't have been an accidental, like he's trying to lift his stick and oops, I got him in the face kind of stuff.
Right.
Those wouldn't come with a fine. It would be, not sure. I didn't see the play, so it would have been something premeditated or on purpose, so to speak.
Right.
All right. Let's move on to some of the other stories that I came up with over the past week. The first one, the NHL and NHL Players Association have teamed up to help explore the feasibility of bringing NCAA Division I men's and women's hockey to Oakland University. Using money from the Industry Growth Fund that was negotiated as part of the 2013 collective bargaining agreement, the league and the NHLPA will fund an 8-week study to analyze one-time and annual expenses, funding opportunities, facility needs, and student and community support at Oakland. We don't know what the study is going to end up suggesting, but we're very excited about the possibility. Oakland Athletic Director Jeff Konya said Monday at a press conference at Little Caesars Arena, home of the Detroit Red Wings, about 30 miles from the Rochester, Michigan school. This would be a chance to add a high-profile sport to our campus. Konya stressed that no decisions have been made and that start date would depend on the findings of the study. This is something that the NHL and Red Wings definitely support, Detroit Red Wings general manager Ken Holland said. It would bring college hockey to the Metro Detroit, and it would make my commute a lot shorter on scouting trips. Oakland is the second college selected in the study after the University of Illinois back in June. 3 more will follow in the program. If the school does add men's and women's hockey, it would be the only men's program in the Detroit area and the only women's program in the state.
Wow.
The closest Division I men's program to Detroit is the University of Michigan, which is about 45 miles away. And the nearest women's program is at Ohio State University. So obviously, Michigan. It's obviously Michigan doesn't have a women's hockey team,
and it shocks me. I didn't know that because I'm sitting here. Wisconsin is the #1 women's team in the NCAA right now.
Yeah, I thought all the big schools had.
I really thought the Big Ten had it locked. So that's a surprise to me.
Yeah, because certainly all the big schools in the Boston area have. I mean, pretty much all the Hockey East schools in the Boston area for sure have women's program. I mean, even Maine has a women's team. It's not a very good team, but they do have a women's team. And of course, Minnesota is the annual powerhouse of women's hockey. Right. Phil Kessel's sister Amanda played at Minnesota.
Wow.
So women's hockey is popular out in the Midwest, too. It's not just a Boston thing. So even though the vast majority of the best players do play in the Boston area. Mm-hmm. All right, Vegas Golden Knights goaltender Malcolm Subban was in a car with several of his teammates heading to the rink on Sunday. He was preparing to face his former team, the Boston Bruins. There was a lot at stake. Subban was making his first start for the Golden Knights, thrust into the spotlight because of an injury to Marc-Andre Fleury, their #1 goalie and face of the franchise. Also in the car was forward Alex Tuch, who, like Subban, was poised to make his Golden Knights debut. It was a storybook finish for each of them. Subban, who had a mere 62 minutes of previous NHL experience, made 21 saves in defeating the Boston Bruins 3-1 at T-Mobile Arena. Tuch scored his first NHL goal at 14:38 of the second period and assisted on Vadim Shipachyov's first NHL goal 3:08 later.
Yeah, I did see that goal on the replays.
I watched that game, of course. It was against Boston, so...
Yeah.
So, So the Malcolm Subban story, we talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
he basically can't crack the Boston lineup. Vegas picks him up and immediately throws him in, and he gets his first win against his former team. Yay.
Welcome to the NHL, Malcolm Subban.
Yep. So now all three Subban brothers are playing in the Western Conference now.
Yeah.
Because there's a third one. I can't remember his first name off the top of my head. He's playing in the Vancouver system. And then there's Malcolm, the goalie, and then PK, of course, is playing in Nashville.
Right.
So, all right. New York Islanders are committed to building an arena at Belmont Park, co-owner John Ledecky confirmed on Tuesday. Ledecky and co-owner Scott Malkin are a part of a group known as New York Arena Partners, LLC, which also includes Sterling Project Development and the Oak View Group. Sterling Project Development is controlled by the Wilpon family, which owns the New York Mets. Oak View Group has helped in the design and construction of arenas across North America. Ledecky said he's unsure of how long it will be before Empire State Development, which will determine what will be built at Belmont, decides on a winning bid. Most estimates appear to be in the range of 4 to 6 months. Belmont Park is located in Elmont, New York, on the border of Nassau County and Queens.
Right.
Ledecky said the Islanders are contractually obligated to play this season and next season at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, where they began play at the start of the 2015-16 season after 43 years at Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York. He wouldn't comment on where the Islanders would play in the interim should they receive the go-ahead and build an arena in Belmont. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman has said on multiple occasions that the Coliseum is not a viable option for the Islanders. And there's a link to further information on this story if this story does, in fact, interest you further. There was a lot more information there. But bottom line is, this is the first time I personally have seen any news coming from the Islanders organization that they are attempting to try to build a new arena.
The same here, and if they don't, Wayne, they're toast, don't you think? It's a matter of time.
Well, if you read that article and you look at the full article, there's a lot of quotes in there from both Bettman and the ownership group of that team that they are committed to staying in New York. They believe that the Islanders are a New York team, and one way or another, they're going to find a solution.
Well, Belmont Park, that's out by the racetrack, right?
But I would imagine, yeah, I believe it is. I know there's a racetrack, Belmont Park.
Yeah, that's one leg of the Triple Crown there. So,
yeah.
I don't know anything about the land area out there. I couldn't tell you, but obviously there's enough to build an arena.
But yeah, so, and they, as part of the article, they recognize that the Barclays Center is not fit for hockey. It wasn't designed for hockey. It was designed for basketball, which is why you have the weird configuration of the seats in that building,
right?
Where the hockey rink just looks like it doesn't fit in the arena, and that's because it doesn't. The arena bowl is too small for a hockey rink. It's made for a basketball court, which is, obviously a lot smaller than a rink.
Right.
So the New York Islanders arena saga continues, but it looks like there may be light at the end of the tunnel, assuming they can get this new arena built.
Now, let me ask you something, Wayne.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be better for them, or is Gary Bettman saying that they will not return to Nassau Coliseum no matter what? Wouldn't it be better for them to close out this contract with Barclays Center and go back to Nassau Coliseum until this arena is finished?
You would think so, but Gary Bettman has said that at least in the long term, that Coliseum is not an option. So,
and that probably, that could be. They're losing. You remember Charles Wong was losing money hand over fist because there wasn't enough revenue. They didn't have enough seats. But
they're not filling them anyway. So.
Right, true. With the expansion of that Coliseum in 2015, Nassau Coliseum was expanded, which I didn't know about.
Oh, okay.
But we found out about it on this show. With the expansion to that Coliseum, increasing the number of seats, that might be an option for them for a short-term deal. They work out a deal to get the center at Belmont Park completed. I don't know, 5 years.
Yeah, the article said it would take, once they break ground, about 20 months to build the arena.
Wow, okay. So
we got to get to the breaking of ground first.
Right, yeah.
And they won't break ground until they have some sort of an agreement and a site and everything else in place. So and the design and all that.
It's very interesting.
But the New York Islanders have a long history in the league. You get that time in the 80s where they won 4 straight cups, and they were a legendary team back then, I mean, there's some of the game's biggest legends are Islanders.
That's
and,
true.
I'd hate to see that team move, but you also want a team to be in a situation where they can succeed too.
That's right.
So, all right, let's move on to some of the honors that have happened this week. And I only had one, and that was our weekly NHL announcement of the 3 stars of the week. And this week, we have Winnipeg Jets left wing Nikolai Ehlers, Toronto Maple Leafs center Austin Matthews, and Washington Capitals center Nick Backstrom were named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending October 15th. Ehlers led the NHL with 5 goals and a total of 7 points, including a pair of game winners, to propel the Jets to 3 straight victories. Matthews recorded 4 goals, including 2 in overtime, to power the Maple Leafs to a pair of wins in 3 starts. Nick Backstrom paced the NHL with 9 points in 4 games with the Capitals. He posted 3 points, factoring in all 3 Washington goals in a 4-3 overtime loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning on October 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So, congratulations to those 3 players.
Yes.
All right. Did you have any other stories you wanted to talk about?
Not in terms of honors. No, I did not.
All right. So let's move on to our power ranking for the week.
Okay. And this week, it was my week, Wayne.
Yep.
So I sat down and I looked at the standings and I looked at stats and stuff. And I've come up with my power rankings going out to the top 16 teams.
Okay.
I did not extend it out to 31. And mine go right from the standings, actually. But I did at the end of this go against what the NHL has in terms of their top 16. Here's what I have. At number 16, I have the Washington Capitals. At number 15, I have the Nashville Predators. 14, Detroit. 13, Colorado. 12, the Ottawa Senators. 11, the Calgary Flames. 10, the Philadelphia Flyers, who are a team we didn't mention, and they are having a very good start. 9, the Pittsburgh Penguins. 8, the Chicago Blackhawks. 7, St. Louis. 6, New Jersey. 5, the Vegas Golden Knights. 4, the Columbus Blue Jackets. 3, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh.
Yep, Tampa Bay at 3. Toronto at 2. And I put the Los Angeles Kings at number 1. And there's only one reason I did. They have not lost a game in regulation.
Yep.
They are undefeated. They did lose in overtime, but they have not lost a game in regulation. So while they may not have as many points as the Toronto Maple Leafs, they haven't played as many games. So they are the only undefeated team in the NHL.
In regulation.
In regulation. And that's the only reason I put them as number 1.
Hey, why not?
Yep.
That makes sense. I had him at number 3. I think the NHL has them a little bit lower than that in their power rankings. But, yeah, I had Toronto at 1 just simply because they're rolling. I mean, yeah, they do have 1 regulation loss, but, boy, they're beating up on some teams. They're winning, 6-2, 5-2. They're winning games handily.
Yep, no
which
problem.
Is why I put them there. So, All right. Just out of curiosity, where do you have Carolina, or do you?
Below the top 16, I don't have them written down, but I can tell you that Carolina is at 5 points. So that's going to put them.
See, I had them higher only because they do have 5 points, but they've done it in 4 games.
Right.
So I had them ranked 13th.
I'd have to look at the other teams, but they're going to be down around like 18.
Middle of the pack, yeah. All right. And how about Boston? I have them at 26.
And again, I'd have to look at that, but probably I focused on the top 16. You probably. I wouldn't
in
say
that ballpark, yeah.
Yeah.
And where do you have the Rangers?
I think I would put them down around 28, 27, 28, 29.
Yeah, I've got them 29, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some teams struggling there at the bottom. Boston, of course, Edmonton, Rangers, Montreal, all playoff teams from last year. San Jose, they're all down in that 25 through 31 range.
Right.
So... but yeah, the big mover of the week, I have Columbus moving from 19 all the way up to 4. You had them at 4 as well.
I did.
Yep. The biggest drop, you had them at 16 is Washington. I have them at 18. They were 4th last week.
Right. I'm looking at your standings right now, and you had Los Angeles at 3, and I've got them at 1. And again, my reasoning, they haven't lost in regulation. So
score update. 2 minutes and 58 seconds into the game, Boston's already down 1-0.
I am. I'm getting tweets here on the Rangers and Islanders are tied 1-1.
Oh, they're right off the bat scoring too, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our minor league minute.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and get mine out of the way. I had a little trouble finding a story because not a lot of press is coming out of the minor leagues right now because those seasons are just now getting up and going. Probably the press is just trying to get to know the players on their respective teams because you know how minor league teams are constantly in transition from one year to the next. You don't have a lot of players coming. But I did find a story out of the American League that kind of intrigued me, and that was the Hershey Bears and the Philadelphia Flyers alumni. This is an alumni game. Are going to be playing each other at the Outdoor Classic. That's going to be taking place in Hershey at Hershey Park Stadium on January 19th. So it's going to feature the former stars of the Flyers, which is going to include Eric Lindros, Danny Briere, John LeClaire, Kimmo Timonen are all playing for the Flyers, and they're going to be playing against the alumni for the Hershey Bears, who are going to include players like Aaron Asham, Terry Karkner. Actually, no, those guys are all going to be playing for the Flyers. Aaron Asham, Terry Karkner, Riley Cody, Todd Fedoruk, Bob Kelly, Tim Kerr, Brian Propp, Doug Crossman, Jeff Chikrin, Larry Goodnow, and Brad Marsh and Joe Watson. They're all going to be playing for the Flyers. Neil Little will be in net. Bernie Parent and Paul Holmgren will be the coaches for the Flyers alumni. Confirmed participants for the Hershey team: Greg Amadio, Dennis Bonvie, Freddie Cassivi, Brian Helmer, Graham Mink, and Pascal Trepigny. So a couple of names in there I've got rough, vague remembrances of.
Yeah.
But should be interesting. And then, of course, the main event will be Hershey taking on, I'm trying to find the game, Lehigh Valley on Saturday the 20th. So I love outdoor games. So anytime an outdoor game comes up, I'm going to talk about it.
Now let me ask you. I'm trying to remember the guy's name in the NHL who is the ice guru. Who's gonna do the ice for the AHL?
I'm sure they have their own. It probably won't be the NHL guy because about that time of the year, he's gonna be busy with the Stadium Series and all that stuff. So he'll have his own issues to deal with.
That's right. I agree. Yeah, that's a big undertaking.
So, and of course, tickets to the alumni game must be purchased as part of a ticket package for the Outdoor Classic. So if you're basically buying tickets to both when you buy them. So how far is Hershey from here anyway?
Oh gosh, Hershey is like Lancaster, Pennsylvania, right? In that general ballpark area.
It's in that ballpark area. Yeah, it's west of Philadelphia. I know that, but it's not all the way out as far as Pittsburgh.
Right.
So it's kind of east central PA area. What do you expect? About an 8-hour drive?
Getting from here to Harrisburg, Wayne, is
not easy.
It's probably about an 8-hour drive.
Yeah.
So 8.5.
Yep.
Somewhere around that area. It's close enough. 8 hours.
Yep. I want to go to an outdoor game at any level. Never mind, NHL would be nice, but we can start with a minor league. I don't know if 8-hour drive is probably a little too far to go, but for us anyway.
Right.
Probably DC might be the farthest we could realistically go. It'd be nice if they would just try one down here.
Right.
Even if it were the Charlotte Checkers. Play the Charlotte Checkers game at the where the Panthers play in Charlotte.
Yeah. That would be something.
Yep.
Quite an undertaking there.
Yep. All right, so that was my minor league minute. What did you have?
I actually, as an honorable mention, will say that mighty SKA St. Petersburg did lose not once, but twice since our last podcast.
But they're overtime losses, so they're still undefeated in regulation.
That's correct. Their winning streak stopped at 20, though. So that is the official new record of the KHL, 20 wins, which I think is more than, I think it's 17 wins in the NHL. So that is a new record for them. But my story actually this week, Wayne, because I didn't want to keep reporting on SKA St. Petersburg, I looked in all the major leagues in the United States, and I decided to report for my minor league minute on the AHL. They handed out their first Player of the Week award, And it probably makes you very happy that that was announced today. Actually, yesterday.
Yesterday, I believe, yeah.
Yesterday, for the week ending October 15th, the AHL announced that Providence Bruins forward Kenny Agostino has been selected as the CCM AHL Player of the Week for the period ending October 15th of 2017. Now, we've talked about Kenny Agostino on this program before. He was the scoring champion of the AHL last year, but let me continue with the story. Agostino had a hand in every one of the Bruins' goals last week, scoring twice and adding 3 assists in 2 games. On Friday night, Agostino netted his first goal of the season and dished out 2 primary assists to help Providence to a 3-2 victory over Springfield. Then on Saturday, he scored again and netted another assist in a 3-2 loss to Toronto. The reigning AHL scoring champion and last year's MVP, Agostino had registered 2 goals and 5 assists in his first 3 games of the 2017-18 season for Providence. A free agent signing by the Boston Bruins on July the 1st of 2017, Agostino posted 83 points in 65 games for the Chicago Wolves last season.
Yep.
And now has 64 goals and 126 assists for 190 points in 200 AHL career contests with Providence, Chicago, Stockton, that's the Stockton Heat, right?
Yep.
And Adirondack. The 25-year-old native of Morristown, New Jersey, was originally a 2010 draft choice of the Pittsburgh Penguins and has skated in 17 career NHL games with Calgary and St. Louis, notching 2 goals and 3 assists in his short NHL career. But you tell me that he's going to play for Boston? He's been called up?
Yeah, right after it was announced that he got that Player of the Week honors, Boston Bruins announced that he got called out. So he's up with the big club. I'm not sure if he's playing tonight, but he is up with the big team right now.
Very good.
And deservedly so with the week that he had. He deserves a call-up. But essentially, he's in there to essentially take the place of a couple of the injured Bruins that are there. I know Bergeron is still day-to-day, and Backus is still day-to-day, and I think Agostino is technically taking Spooner's spot in the roster.
Okay. Well, it's an exciting time for the Bruins, and to latch on to an AHL scoring phenom like that via free agency has got to be a feather in Boston's cap. That's pretty good. I wonder how he slipped out of, since the Chicago Wolves transferred over to the Vegas Golden Knights, how he slipped out of their clutches. Were they not able to go after him? I guess they couldn't. But even Chicago used to be St. Louis's farm team.
Yeah, and Agostino's a guy that just hasn't had a shot at the NHL level, really. I mean, Chicago, the team he was with before, they're a deeper team, so he just never really had a shot. Boston decided to give him a shot, but they did sign him. I believe it's a 2-way contract, so he can play on either club. And he is, in fact, playing tonight. I just looked up and saw them focus in on him, so he is in the lineup tonight. He's playing
Very good.
He's playing on Boston's power play unit tonight.
Very good. Very good, Wayne.
So, all right. Well, let's move on to the College Hockey Minute. And not much to report out of the University of Maine. They were off last weekend. They've got Miami for 2 games at Maine this coming weekend, and I'll be sure to be watching both of those Friday and Saturday night. As far as upsets of ranked teams that happened over the past weekend, number 11 Penn State beat number 7 Minnesota 3-1, and that was at Minnesota. Number 5 Minnesota Duluth lost to unranked Bemidji State 5-2. Number 2 Boston University lost to unranked Minnesota State at home 6-3. Nebraska Omaha, who's unranked, beat number 12 UMass Lowell 4-2, and that was at UMass Lowell. And then on Saturday night, there was only one upset. Minnesota State again beat Boston University 3-0. So Boston University gets swept at home by an unranked Minnesota State team. That obviously is sure to drop BU out of that number 2 spot in the rankings, and we'll find out here in a second that is in fact the case. As far as games coming up this weekend, there's a number of games between ranked teams. Number 19 UMass Lowell's at Clarkson, who's also number 12. Number 18, Quinnipiac is at number 16, Northeastern. Number 13, Boston College is at number 3, St. Cloud State. And number 8, Minnesota is at number 4, North Dakota. And I'm going to make that as our definite pick of the week if you want to watch some good college hockey, that Minnesota-North Dakota series. They're playing each other twice, Friday and Saturday night.
In Grand Forks.
At the Ralph in Grand Forks.
And those fans, that's a tough place to go win a hockey game.
It sure is.
I'm not a college hockey knowledgeable guy like you are, Wayne. You're brilliant. Yeah. But I enjoy listening to you. And under your tutelage, I have learned an awful lot about the University of North Dakota. So
the Ralph Engelstad Arena is probably one of the nicest arenas in college hockey in terms of arenas that are actually on campus, owned by the schools. Some of these schools do play, like the Boston area schools do occasionally play at TD Garden. That arena doesn't count. It's an NHL rink. In terms of college rinks, there's very few around that can rank or that can stack up against the Ralph as a college hockey in terms of a quality arena.
Right.
But I'll probably tune in that game if I can find it on TV for sure. At least one of those two games, because that's going to be a good one.
I want you to know I watched that Denver Notre Dame game, the first one, and I would never have watched the college hockey a few years ago, but you given me the bug, and now I've watched college hockey. So thank you, Wayne.
Yep. And all 4 of those games that I just mentioned for Friday night are also going to be taking place on Saturday night. All 4 of those are 2-game series at the same arenas. So there should be some good games there. All right, let's take a quick look at the polls for the week. At number 10 this week on the U.S. College Hockey Online poll is Providence. They're up from number 9 or down from number 9. Minnesota Duluth is at number 9 this week, and they're down from number 5. Number 8 is Minnesota. They're up from number 7. Boston University drops all the way to 7 because of that sweep of the at the hands of Minnesota State. They were at number 2 last week. Number 6 this week is Wisconsin. They were number 10. Number 5 is Notre Dame, and they were at number 4 last week. Number 4 this week is North Dakota. They're up from number 8. They're 3-0-1, so that's a good reason why there. Number 3 is St. Cloud State. They got actually 1 first-place vote, and they are 3-0-0, and they were number 6 last week. Number 2 remains Harvard. They've yet to play a game this year. And number 1 still this week is Denver. They have only played 2 games officially. They still have 49 first-place votes. They're 1-0-1, and they remain at number 1. Almost unanimous. 49 out of 50 first-place votes. All right, let's move on to our picks of the week. And you have one about pickle juice?
Yeah, I have one about pickle juice. Let me get that out of the way. But this was quite hilarious. But I mean, serious. I tell you what, this is a serious thing. I personally, Wayne, I happen to be very partial to Dave's Famous Pickles, which you can buy at Costco. If you've ever tried them, they're delicious. They got a little bit of heat to them, but they're bread and butter pickles. They're great on a sandwich or a hamburger. But when I heard that this guy, Blake Coleman, is drinking pickle juice, and it really never comes out and tells you what kind of pickle juice it is, but it appears to be kosher dill pickle juice. I was shocked. The article is on NHL.com, and it is titled Blake Coleman Uses a Secret Weapon to Fuel Success for the Devils. Forward Blake Coleman drinks pickle juice prior to and during games. To prevent cramps. And again, I looked at the jar of pickles. It appears to be kosher dill pickles, the large ones. Wayne, if you can chug down one good solid gulp of that stuff, you're a better man than I can, because I can do it. But let me get back to the article here. Blake Coleman rarely finds himself in a pickle whenever he's overcome by fatigue or cramping in the late stages of any hockey game. That's because the New Jersey Devils forward has the perfect remedy, pickle juice. Coleman, nicknamed Pickles by his teammates, is the only player on New Jersey to open the pickle jar and drink the brine at least once every game in an effort to energize his muscles. It's something that started in college for me, Miami University of Ohio, especially when I was playing in those high-altitude games in Colorado, Coleman said. I had heard of it through football and from a couple of guys in college, but once I got to the pros, for whatever reason, I started cramping a little bit more. I've tried pretty much everything there is to combat the cramps, but for me, pickle juice was the one thing that really proved to work. Coleman has seen increased ice time as the Devils' fourth-line center in the absence of Travis Zajac, which we reported on the show. He's got a pectoral muscle surgery, and he'll be out for a while. And Brian Boyle, we also reported this one. He has chronic myeloid leukemia this season. So Coleman is the guy who stepped in there for those two guys. It's working for him because he's flying, Coach John Hines said. You look at today's day and age of different things that guys do, and that's certainly unique, but it seems like it's helping him. He's got all kinds of energy, and he's playing really well for us, so my advice is just keep drinking the pickle juice. There is evidence to suggest that Coleman may be onto something. A study done in 2013 by Kevin C. Miller in the Department of Health, Nutrition, and Exercise Sciences at North Dakota State University suggests that not only does pickle juice relieve muscle cramps within 35 seconds of ingestion.
Wow.
But those cramps lasted about 45 seconds less when subjects drank pickle juice instead of water. Now, again, it does not specify what kind of pickle juice, but I'm going to assume that it is dill pickle juice. Again, that's what it appears that Coleman is drinking. Coleman must do his own shopping for pickles prior to every game. It's a huge, they don't even buy it for him. It's a huge pain, he says. I buy a jar before the game and bring it in, he said. Usually I'll try and plan on the schedule that week. If I don't have time to get jars on the road, I'll ask the away staff during the pregame meal. They look at me like I'm crazy and then bring me a jar of pickles or pickle juice itself. Isn't this something? This is priceless. Coleman said he averages about a half a jar per game, but depending on the on-ice temperature and conditions, he could end up drinking the entire jar.
Wow.
Coleman also uses premium pickle brine manufactured in wine bottles from a company called Brink Brothers, based out of River Edge, New Jersey. Now, if that isn't, and if you see the picture on NHL.com, again, it appears he's drinking like, Mount Olive kosher pickle juice or whatever. I don't know what brand it is. It might be Clausen or whatever. But the guy can drink the whole jar sitting on the bench. So if you have a chance and you are a center ice fan, or you can flip to the New Jersey Devils games, you might want to study a game one night and see if you catch Coleman swigging down pickle juice on the sidelines, because he drinks it during the game to prevent his cramps. Absolutely amazing story.
The only thing I can keep thinking of in a case like that is I would hate to be the guy who's sitting on the bench, reaches out because the water bottles are generally lined up in little cubby holes on the back side of the boards. The fans can't see it, but they have little cutouts in the boards generally, a place for the water bottles to go.
Right.
I would hate to go to grab a water bottle as a player, and you go and take the swig, and sometimes they'll take a drink and then spray their face to cool their face down, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And have it not be water and have it be some of that pickle juice.
I would turn polka dot trying to drink down even one gulp of it. If it's dill pickle juice, oh my God. There's no way I could do that.
Isn't it mostly vinegar?
It is high salt, high sodium vinegar concentration. A lot of dill in it too,
Now I've heard of players. We had several guys on a team when I played in high school that would drink not Enfamil. What's the stuff you give babies to rehydrate
I think it is
them?
Enfamil, right?
Well, that's formula, not baby formula. Pedialyte.
Oh, okay.
We've had several players who would drink Pedialyte on the bench.
Right.
That was common in high school when I was playing because of the electrolytes that are in Pedialyte, and it doesn't taste all that bad. It's not great tasting, but the benefits there to help keep their energy level up during a game.
Yeah.
But pickle juice, that's a new one.
I paraphrase the article, but there is a point where they ask him, how does he drink? He woofs it, man. He does it like shots of it.
He just shoves it down so he doesn't taste it.
It's not where he's sipping it and trying. He's literally chugging it down.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that beats all. I've never heard of something like that before in my life. So, anyways, thank you, Wayne. I'm anxious to hear yours.
Well, mine is one I did last year at about this time, and it is an article that I found on usahockey.com. It is time they do this twice a year now. They usually do it in the fall and then again in the spring, right before the hockey season ends, for the Try Hockey for Free Day.
Oh, yeah.
On Saturday, November 4th, USA Hockey and 500 local associations across the country will host Try Hockey for Free Day. Participating locations encourage kids age 4 to 9 to come try youth hockey as part of Hockey Week across America. All locations will have limited equipment available for use. And the limited equipment means basically they're going to give you the bare bones minimum that you need to get out there. They're going to let you borrow. It's basically, at least at the rink that I play at, they're one of the rinks that's participating. They'll rent you skates. They'll give you a helmet, gloves. The bare minimum, bare bones to get the kids out there, sticks. They've got all that on hand so that you can let kids go out there and try hockey for free.
Wow.
And they have an article online on usahockey.com. All locations will have limited equipment available for use. Find the closest Try Hockey event to you on the map below by searching for your zip code. Try Hockey events are indicated with red pin on the map. Click the pin most convenient to your location to register your child. And then they have, for any questions, please contact us at 719-538-1124 or email comeplayyouthhockey@usahockey.org.
Wow.
So it's a nice website, and the website is tryhockeyforfree.com. So if you want any information, if you have a kid that's in that age group, 4 to 9, and you want to have them try hockey, because it's expensive. It really is an expensive sport to play. I can tell you as a hockey parent, it's not cheap. And there are ways to lower the cost. Granted, if you live in the northern climates, generally it costs less to play because the arena's costs are lower in the cold weather states. But then you got the equipment and everything else. And there are ways. I bought a lot of equipment over the years at used equipment stores, places like Play It Again Sports, which I believe is just about everywhere around the country now. You can get a lot of used equipment. A lot of the local associations have equipment swap, almost like a swap meet, where either at the beginning of the season or at the end of the season or both. All the parents that have equipment that their kids have either outgrown or is too big or whatever, they all get together at a specific date and time. And you can trade equipment with other parents, and there's a lot of different ways to defray the costs of all of this stuff. But the big event is November 4th is coming up. Is Try Hockey for Free Day. You can at least get your kid out on the ice and let them get started. And I would suggest, if you want to do that, you have a couple of weeks between now and then. Bring your kid to your local rink and get them out there on skates at least, to get them. Most of those rinks have public skate sessions, and just get them skating. Right. And then once they feel comfortable skating a little bit, then it's time to get them out there to try hockey. But I guarantee you, most kids are going to like it if you get them out there. So for further information, go to tryhockeyforfree.com. Enter in your zip code. They'll show you exactly what rinks are closest to you that are participating in this event. And get your kids out there. It's a lot of fun.
That's excellent. Yep. That's great news, Wayne. Very, very good.
All right. So let's go ahead and wrap things up, because both of us have hockey games to go watch. and let's take things from there. And good news, the game that I want to watch, the Bruins are up 4-1 now. They chased the Nielsen, the backup goalie for Vancouver. They've chased him, and they've got Markstrom back in net. So, it's about to be 5-1. And nope, he missed the net. Anyway, they just had a breakaway. All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Again, we'll remind everybody you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. Basically anywhere you can get a podcast, you can find us. You can listen to us right on our website at thehockeynuts.com. You can listen to us on the hockeywriters.com website under their podcast channel. You can interact with us by tweeting me. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at sball504man. Our email is at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. And our Facebook page is facebook.com/thehockeynuts. And our YouTube channel is at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube, where you can watch us make the bacon live each week. Generally, we record on Thursdays at about 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and that is, in fact, the case this week. We're back on schedule, and we're going forward from there. As far as next week is concerned, we'll pretty much be continuing the same as this week, getting you caught up on all the news. We're going to be tentatively recording next week at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern, same time, same day, pretty much going on with the upcoming events. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nothing other than let's hope for better weeks for our teams, Wayne. We look forward, and we always keep those that we've reported on in the past. Brian Boyle going through difficult times, Edzo in Chicago. People we keep in our prayers and our thoughts. Dana Lang, a lot of the stuff that we've reported on in these previous podcasts, we don't forget about it.
Yep.
It's in our hearts and in our minds, and as stories and things present themselves, we will report them again. But we're so thankful for all the listeners who listen to our show each week.
Do we want to give our listeners some homework this week? Do we want them to try to get in touch with us about anything?
I think that would be a good idea. We're looking to hear from anyone, all our fans or listeners to the show. Who would like to provide us with feedback, what you like about the show. I'm trying to think specifically on a homework assignment. What do they think of the new team, the Vegas Golden Knights, and their introduction into the NHL?
That's a good one. Yeah. What do you think's going to happen with the Vegas Golden Knights? I want to hear from some of the listeners. Do you think they're going to continue at this pace and make a playoff run? Or do you think they're going to come back down to earth and ultimately become the team that everyone expected them to be?
Right. That's an excellent one.
Let us know what you think about that particular incident or that particular situation, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up so we can go watch our games.
All right.
Well, until next week, we'll see you then, Steve.
Have a good night, Wayne.
All right, you too.
All right, welcome to this week's fantasy hockey segment. I got to come up with a better name for that. But anyway, let's move on. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the strong individual player performances over the past period. I'm going to go ahead and start referring to, the past week as the fantasy hockey week, which generally for most leagues starts on Monday, ends on Sunday. So in this case, I'm going to talk about period 2, Monday, October 9th through Sunday, October 15th. And Drew Doughty was the best player of that 7-day period last week, at least in our league anyway. He had 41 fantasy points in our league. He had 2 goals, 3 assists in just 3 games over the past week. Nikolai Ehlers was just behind him at 39 points. He had 5 goals, 2 assists in 3 games last week. PK Subban also had a strong week. 1 goal, 5 assists in 3 games played. Philip Forsberg, 4 goals, 2 assists in 3 games played. And then the last of the top 5 players of the week, Nick Backstrom, had 3 goals, 6 assists in 4 games played last week, for a total of 34 points. Now, in terms of strong goalie performances last week, Mike Smith had a very good week last week. 3 wins and a loss in 4 games played for 37 fantasy points in our league. Connor Hellebuck had 3 wins last week as well in just 3 games played. Corey Crawford was 2-1 last week, as well as Semyon Varlamov was also 2-1. And then the last goalie performance of the week that I saw was Sergei Bobrovsky with a 3-0 week. Now, looking year to date, in our league anyway, Alex Pietrangelo is leading our league with 69 fantasy points on the backs of his 10 points in 8 games playing D for the St. Louis Blues. He's got 2 goals, 8 assists. Alex Ovechkin is right behind him, 67.8 points, thanks to his 9 goals and 1 assist so far this year in just 7 games. Nikita Kucherov, 8 goals, 6 assists in 8 games, thanks to that long goal-scoring streak that he's got going on. He's at 67.2 points for the week, or for the season, I'm sorry. Evander Kane, not the Kane that I would expect to see at the top of the standings, but anyway, Evander is 5 goals, 5 assists for a total of 10 points in 7 games, and he has 61 fantasy points in our league. Shane Gostisbehere, 1 goal, 9 assists, 10 points in 7 games so far this season. So it was good representative of both forwards and defense at the top of the player point standings, which it basically is about how I designed the league in that case, to try to have both forwards and D at the top of the scoring charts. Now, as far as goaltenders are concerned, Andrei Vasilevsky with Tampa Bay is leading the league right now in our fantasy points competition. He's at 6-1, or 6-1-1 actually, through 7 games. Mike Smith is right behind him at 54 points so far this year. He also has 7 games played with a 4-3-1 record. Pekka Rinne is third in fantasy points in our league, 49.1, and he is at 4-1-1 on the season through 6 games. Frederik Andersen in Toronto is at 5-1-1, and he is right behind Pekka Rinne at 47.98 points so far this year. And then the 5th goalie overall in year-to-date totals is Jake Allen, goaltender with St. Louis. He's at 4-2-0 through 6 games, and he has 47.23 fantasy points. All right, let's talk about results in our fantasy league over the past week. We're looking at week 2 now. And the first game of the week, Pucks for Brains blew out Pfeiffer Fighting, 253-144. Mile 40 Saskatchewan Donut Shop beat the Battle Blades, 169-142 last week. Hageman Hilltoppers beat the Rat Bastards, 189-159 last week. Sneaky Stat Weasels beat Frozen Pogies, 186-143. Purple Haze upended Mr. Hockey, 201-159. Motherpuckers took care of the Kessel Run, 190-168. And in the last game of the week, Jammer 4 just barely got by the Ice Holes, 216-210. And I don't know about you guys, but I hate losing close ones. If I'm going to lose, I'd rather get blown out than lose a close one, because you just think what could have been. All right, just a quick look at the standings. In the Wayne Gretzky division, Jammer 4 and Mile 40 Donut Saskatchewan Shop are both 2-0. The Rat Bastards and the Battle Blades are both 0-2. And the Hageman Hilltoppers, Pfeiffer Fighting, and Motherpuckers are all in the middle of the pack at 1-1. In the Gordie Howe division, Sneaky Stat Weasels, Purple Haze are both 2-0. Frozen Pogies and the Kessel Run are both 0-2. And Mr. Hockey, Pucks for Brains, and Ice Holes are in the middle of the pack, all at 1-1. All right, let's take a look at some of the players that might be available in your fantasy league, thanks to some recent strong performances. First player I wanted to talk about is Malcolm Subban. Depending on the situation with Marc-Andre Fleury, you may want to go ahead and pick up Subban, especially if you have Marc-Andre Fleury. If you've got room on your roster for 2 Vegas goaltenders, Subban is a guy you're going to want to pick up at least until Marc-Andre Fleury is back from injury, because right now Subban is the starter in Vegas, and as long as they keep playing as well as they have, he's going to get you some wins. And I guarantee you he's probably available. Well, if he hasn't been scooped up by now, he should be available in your league, because he wasn't even expected to be in the NHL at the start of the season. Jesper Bratt had a very strong first week of the year. He's kind of cooled off a little bit, but he's still playing very well in Jersey. He may be a good option for you if he is still available. Samuel Girard, defenseman for Nashville Predators. He's had a very decent week of late. He's had a goal and 2 assists in the last 3 games and has been playing quite a bit of ice time in Nashville. He may be someone to take a look at. Chris Stewart, right winger for the Minnesota Wild. He's got points in each of his last 4 games played, so he is definitely worth a look. And finally, Anton Khudobin, goaltender for the Boston Bruins. He's the backup there technically, but Tuukka Rask just went down earlier this week with a concussion, so no telling when he's going to be coming back. And for right now, Khudobin appears to be the starter in Boston, so you may want to pick him up for a short time, at least until Rask is back. Now, I also have some honorable mentions so far this week. Just a list of some of the players you may want to look into. If they're available in your league, they may be worth picking up, depending on your scoring system and how many teams and how big your rosters are and so on and so on. You may have a number of players that are available. And some of these are some of the players that might still be available for you. Bo Horvat, Vancouver, center. Patrick Eaves, right wing, Anaheim. Alec Martinez, defenseman, LA. Jimmy Howard, goaltender, Detroit. Anders Bjork, left wing for the Boston Bruins. Brandon Montour, defenseman, Anaheim. Ryan Strome, center, Edmonton. Kyler Yamamoto, right winger, Edmonton. And Roberto Luongo, goaltender, Florida Panthers. All right, that's all I have for this week's edition of the Fantasy Hockey segment. Good luck to your team this week, and we'll see you next week.